Our guest today has worn every hat in Hollywood, from acting, directing, writing, producing. Today we have Justine Bateman, who is a true advocate for Hollywood, a true advocate for protecting an industry that has created so many jobs for many people. Today, we're going to talk about the effect artificial intelligence will have on the industry. We talk about politics, so let's get into it.
I'm Sean O'Brien, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Put your helmets on, buckle your chin straps. It's a full contact sport.
We're going to find out who has a better bad idea. So we met during the WGA and Screen Actors Guild strike, but I think the writers went out first and then the screen actors went out after. And you and I met at a rally held out in Hollywood. And you were fascinating to me because I grew up watching you on TV, Family Ties, APK, Alex P. Keaton. And to see you out there advocating so hard on behalf of working men and women in the industry, I'm like, I need to know this woman. I want to see what she does because, we had 20,000 Teamsters nationwide supporting the strike and refusing to cross picket lines. And you were very, very passionate. What was that experience like? Because I assume that was your first strike, right?
In a way. So I'm a filmmaker now, in the Writers Guild and DGA and a producer too. But back during the 07-08 strike, WGA, I was very active in that, even though I wasn't in the WGA yet. I just knew that it was something special was starting. And big picture, something special was starting with streaming. What would they call it before? It wasn't streaming. It was made for new media material. So yeah, this time it was as a WGA member, and it was paramount it was so important to the whole effort that the Teamsters and IATSE refused to, especially Teamsters as a whole, refused to cross the picket line. I mean, I don't know that strike could have carried on or even started the way it did without that. And so for me, back in 07, it was all about making sure you had real estate and made for new media for each of the unions. But this time it was about AI. And because I have a computer science degree, I understood at that point, like, what was going to occur to the entertainment industry wholesale. And so, yeah, I was very passionate about us taking a stand against that.
So you were in SAG your entire life, I would assume.
Oh, the SAG membership, yeah, I haven't acted. I mean, acting is a past occupation for me, but yeah, I had my SAG membership, I think, when I was 16 years old.
And you were on the executive board, I believe, in 2009 for SAG.
I was on the board of directors for 3 years.
So what was that like? I mean, what were the issues back then as compared to today? I mean, AI really wasn't a threat, which it is now. Everybody has this opinion that anybody that's a Hollywood actor is making millions upon millions of dollars per year. They don't realize that after your project, whether you're a star or you're a B-list actor, you're unemployed.
Yeah.
What were the issues back then compared to now?
It's funny. People think it's like a government job. Like, once you stop doing it, you continue to receive payment. Like, you don't. Someone can get $1 million for a film and then not work for 5 years, and they better make that money last, because that's all the money you're getting, besides residuals. But back then, when I was on the board, I was on the negotiating committee once or twice. And during that time, it was made for new media. And I said to them, everybody was...
And you want to talk about new media, you're talking about the Netflix of the world. And
we didn't have Netflix
right,
yet.
but it was coming,
yes,
right?
Yes. I mean, we had YouTube with the technical restriction of a 3-minute upload. So you had webisodes, right? Because you couldn't upload anything more than 3 minutes. The AMPTP, of course, was very dismissive. That's the organization, just for people who don't know, that represents all the producers and studios and
they represent the
streamers.
companies.
The companies.
We refer to companies,
Yeah.
corporations.
Yes, they represent the corporations.
White collar crime syndicates. Okay. They'll give you half the story, make you feel good, and then.
Well, yeah. So they kept poo-pooing. I mean, we didn't have the streamers. We're not part of the AMPTP. They were barely on their feet at all as far as being involved with our business. But it was happening. It was online. It was occurring. That was the first strike, actually, in the entertainment industry where a union could get their side out.
But I remember that
videos,
strike.
Put it straight
I remember
on.
that strike back then, and there wasn't the solidarity that it was this time around. I remember movies being shot all over the country.
Yeah.
And I think the Writers Guild was out on strike in 2008 or 2009.
2007, 2008, but the actors were not.
Right.
But it was an element in that contract to get rates for made-for-new media for what became streaming. And I kept insisting, because AMPTP was saying, don't worry about it. We're not going to, it's so nascent. Like, we're never going to make any,
12 years down.
Yeah, we're never going to make any money off of this. I don't know why you guys are spending so much time. And I kept saying, you guys don't understand. This is just another way to distribute our work. This is the same thing. At the time, I had a hard drive attached to our television set. This is before, we had ready, internet ready televisions. And I said, just imagine the TV just as a monitor. I said, you have to if you don't get real estate in this area, you'll never get it back. And they got a tiny bit of real estate.
And so who are you arguing with at this point in time? Remember on the board, you're arguing with your own people.
I'm arguing with, I'm trying to inform the people on the board. And this is before I even had a computer science degree. I was just saying, this is what's coming. And sure enough, we got a tiny bit of real estate, and SAG has had to build this this skinny tower off of that small piece of real estate. And that is one of the reasons why it's very difficult for an actor to make a living in this business, because the rates for streaming suck. And it goes right back to that negotiation in 07, 08.
So people don't realize what you agree to in an agreement could have negative effects in the next agreement, the following agreement. I mean, I negotiate contracts every day for a living. And you always try and have a vision and a strategy. Right now, we got to solve the problems of today, but we've got to try and foresee the problems that are going to face us, whether it's technology, whether it's unforeseen circumstances, the nature of the business changes. I remember that strike because we had a pretty vibrant motion picture business going on in the city of Boston, and we represent all the Teamsters. And I remember when WGA went out on strike, we have great picket line protection, as you know, that will support any and all labor disputes for any unions, meaning we don't have to work behind picket lines. I remember calling the representatives that were running the motion picture industry for us and the Teamsters at the time. I'm like, hey, one of these people coming out here, because we'll shut down the production. All we need is, someone out there with a picket sign saying WGA. Right. They're like, we're not there yet. I'm like, listen, we're all in this industry together.
Yeah.
And I think that hurt back then, not having the solidarity and support of the other unions.
Yeah.
And it may have made the difference, but I'll tell you, this time around, there was tremendous solidarity. And I think because when you really think about it this way, right, the issues back then, 2008, 2009, were kind of individual union issues.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You normally, path of least resistance, don't get involved until something actually affects them.
Yeah.
And I think this time around, the real threat of AI not only affected the WGA, but the SAG-AFTRA. And if that affects them, there's going to be a negative impact on the Teamsters Union and IATSE and everybody else involved. So I think that was the difference. Talk about what the major issues were for the writers this time around, if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, there are a lot of issues that I didn't focus on that the WGA was dealing with. There was a lot about television in the writers' room and being able to hire enough writers for staff that you have that apprenticeship program that's been so successful, brought up so many great writers over the past few decades. But I was just focused on AI, and at least WGA got the protection of and DGA did as well, that you're hiring a writer and the writer must be a human, and you can't force the writers to use generative AI and all of that. SAG, on the other hand, gave that away. I'll just say this. I was involved in all the AI back and forth for SAG because I was there as a AI consultant advisor. I was there for all of the back and forth about generative AI except the last one. And when the last one came around and I knew it was being scheduled, and I said, what time do you want me to be there? And they're like, oh, that's okay. You don't need to come. We've got it. And at that moment, I knew they were going to agree to just about everything I had told them to not agree to. And I'd given them reasons why. So it was with the full knowledge of the results.
You were going to be the impediment to them getting a deal because you were going to be transparent and focused on you're going to be giving your work away if you agree to this.
But it's not for no reason. It would have been like you allowing, or a representative within Hollywood of the Teamsters allowing self-driving cars to do anything that's happening on a film production.
This episode is brought to you by Catches Law Group, proud advocates for workers and their families since 1986. If you've been hurt on the job, navigating the workers' comp system can feel like fighting an uphill battle. That's where Catches Law comes in. They've recovered over $3 billion for hardworking people just like you, and they don't back down when your rights are on the line. They know what it means to stand shoulder to shoulder with unions and workers across the country. Because at Catches Law, it's not just about compensation, it's about justice. Learn more at catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com. I have witnessed single-handedly the work that's been done on behalf of injured workers by the lawyers at catcheslaw.com. They have fought tirelessly to make certain that injured workers get the justice that they deserve, and more importantly, are able to be compensated for all their hard work and their sacrifices to their bodies on behalf of employers who don't care about them. Learn more at catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com.
I mean, it's just so. At that point, you're no longer negotiating for your members. How does that help any of the members?
Oh, it doesn't. If you're
you're capitulating the position.
If you're agreeing to terms and conditions, that's going to diminish your work and put people out of work.
Yeah.
That's not our job. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Everybody loves technology. It's sexy. It's efficient. But in the reality of it, where do these people that lose their jobs go in Hollywood if AI is going to be embraced?
Well, and also then if SAG, sorry to interrupt, but if SAG is saying, yeah, you can use AI objects instead of actors, which by the way are put together by having loaded in all 100 years of performances of various actors, and none of them get any compensation. None of them got a say. Right? So, but you're going to make an AI object that looks like a human. I was saying, like, I said, you better have something in there that if you're going to have a character, if you're having a character who's a human character, I said, put it in there. Like WGA did it and DGA did it. Put it in there that it has to be played by a human SAG actor. They didn't put that in there.
And that agreement was ratified on a high percentage because, it was a long
quote,
strike.
Everyone wants to get back to work.
Right,
and I'm like,
strike.
I thought, fine, you're going to do the same thing. I just don't understand the lack of self-preservation.
So what is the, I mean, you're in the industry, a ton of people in the industry. Have you talked to people? Are their opinions changed from the ratification of that agreement in SAG to where they are now as far as AI having an effect on them? Because there's another issue we have to deal with. It's called tariffs and these.
Sure. I just hear sadness that there's so little work.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is that because of the AI, or is that because of these greedy studios masquerading Paris as New York?
Well, both of that, and also, bigger issue, the studios allowed They didn't hold on to their North Star of making excellent work or their business model. They didn't defend being in theaters. They've eliminated the window, theatrical, play window. And now you've got financially, the financial health of the business is almost completely in the hands of 3 companies, 2 of which don't depend at all on this business. So they have.
Do you care to expose them?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not saying this as a, screw these businesses, I hate them. I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying this is just a fact. Amazon, Apple, Netflix. Mm-hmm. These 3 companies now pretty much financially control the business in this sense. They're the ones putting the most, well, I can't say the most, but a tremendous amount of money into production. But when you're looking at corporate health, right, you're looking at a business and you have a castle, which is your core business, and you've got the moat around it, and that moat protects it. So the castle for Amazon is having this website that sells goods to people. And part of the moat is making some of these films and series that they call content. It's just stuff to put in the moat to keep people coming back to that site to make stuff, to buy stuff.
Everything's a marketing ploy with these big companies.
Right. But they could tomorrow just go, this has been fun, but it's not really working for us anymore. We're not going to make any more shows. Boom. That could be totally cut off. Apple, same thing. They make devices. It's a hardware company. This is part of their moat to just keep people on the devices, but it's they have no dog in the hunt. They don't depend on it, right? It's a loss leader probably.
Right.
And then Netflix is a little bit different, but they have a website and they depend on having subscriptions. And so if they give this illusion of, new material all the time, then they'll keep people on there. So there's not as much concern with what's in the material inside this project, just that it gives the illusion that you have something new and possibly valuable. And it doesn't matter if it is actually valuable when you open it, so long as it's keeping the subscribers. Now, the DNA for the motion picture business and for the series business is completely different. In other words, the audience that we used to have for 100 years was people who were buying tickets in the theater and were turning on a television show, and the ratings then caused the advertisers to pay more money. Just for anyone who doesn't know how that works, the more higher ratings, the more you could charge the advertisers for these commercials. So your audience are these people that are either paying tickets or watching your show. The audience. So you're making a film for the audience, right? Are they gonna come pay and see this film? You try to keep them.
Right.
You want to appeal to them, or actually give society what you think it's missing, so they come and get it by watching your film. The audience now is not the people watching the film. The audience now are the executives at Apple, Amazon, Netflix. Even if you're like Sony, you don't have an online play or whatever. You're making it for the theaters. That's still where you're going to end up. And so you have to make films and series that appeal to that audience of these executives. And these executives are looking to enforce the moat around their castle, and their castle
to support their bigger business.
Nothing to do with the film business.
Right. You know what's disturbing, and I said this recently, especially, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, is I always looked at the motion picture industry, especially the United States, as an icon, American icon. It was like, I consider it like Major League Baseball, America's sport.
Yeah.
A lot of creativity went into it, a lot of passion.
Yeah.
And you make a great point as far as now there's these 3 big players, that this is not their primary business. This is basically a hobby to promote their primary business. When you look back, and I dealt with Hollywood for a long time, as I told you, my dad was involved.
Yeah.
It was never about the bottom line of a balance sheet. It was always about the creativity, making a film that's going to appeal to the audience that's going to go see it. And I just remember as a kid, my mother giving us money to walk down to the local theater and watch a movie. Like that was better than going to Disney World for us. I mean, I didn't go to Disney World till I was in my 30s. But I mean, so much has changed, and not for the better.
Yeah.
It's like there's such corporate greed. And, you know, you make a fascinating point. I never thought of it that way. You look at a lot of these streaming media shows out there. You look at Showtime, they had billions. Okay. That's based on private equity. That's based on hedge funds. It's based on money. It's based on all this corporate greed. And those shows are taken off tremendously. Let's make, you know, movies and series about working people, struggles, trials, tribulation. You don't see any of that. That's a great point. I don't think anybody ever realized it or looked at it that way.
Yeah. Another thing that's happened. So by appealing to this new audience, which are these executives at these tech companies, all they're looking for is content. That's the word content is related to...
It's volume.
Yeah. The word content is related to filmed material started when websites came on the scene. So let's say the early 90s, right? Or late 90s. And your dry cleaner, your doctor's office, your local news station, anybody, they kept saying, how do we get people back to our sites? Like, why do you even want people back to your site? But anyway, they were all caught up in like, how many visitors have we had? And the way they determined that they could get people back to their site is to have fresh content. And that usually meant video. So you'd get the president of the dry cleaner company, you know, out there talking about his coupons for whatever. And that was the fresh content you were coming back for. Say, okay, so the dry cleaners are trying to get you come back, and then they're bringing out content. So now these tech companies come along, and they're looking for what? They're looking for people to keep using the devices in Apple's case, people to keep coming back to the website in Amazon's case or Netflix's case. And so they need content to keep you to come back. And that is not, films and TV series are not content. They're films and TV series. But that's how these tech companies refer to them. So you think about it
this way, right? You think about the fight the WGA took on and won, so to speak, with AI. You look at the permission that's been given, even though there's some protections, but there's some permissions as well under this new SAG agreement, which I haven't seen. But it makes sense. You can pump out so much content with AI with less human actors as a result of it. I mean, I don't think anybody, and you've enlightened me to something new today, that's going to be a huge fear right now.
Well, and here's the thing, and this is what I was telling them when I was advising SAG on the AI negotiations, and what I was saying, and I said to them too, like, you have a responsibility here. The actors they're the finger in the dike for AI use. If you let that go, if you don't need to film an actor, what else don't you need? You don't need a set, so you don't need location managers. You don't need a crew. You don't need drivers.
Nope.
And if, I know there's a lot of pressures to doing a negotiation, but if I had been lead negotiator for SAG and they would have said, we want to do this and we want to use AI objects in place of humans and all of this, I would have said that. I would have said, then you're talking about eliminating the set. And I would have said to them, I'm going to go call the head of the Teamsters right now, and I'm going to go call the head of IATSE.
Because I have his phone number.
I'm going to call the head of IATSE, yeah. And I'm going to ask them if they're okay with that.
Right.
If they're okay with us eliminating sets, I'll be right back.
Right.
And then I would have come back and said, they're not okay with it.
Tremendous leverage. You know, we've asked.
And that's it.
We've asked Fran Drescher to come on the podcast just to talk because, look, I'm pro SAG. Do anything for them. I'll do anything for any union that asks for our help because we're pretty influential. And, but you know, it's frightening to think that one decision or one agreement could actually negatively impact a complete industry and a demise of an industry.
Yes, I mean that's one of many. I don't think that's the only decision that has caused the demise. You know, the greed and the greed of the studios and the capitulation of their business model in favor of a tech company's business model, which is a completely different DNA. That is definitely, I think there were a lot of executives that kind of sort of felt like, you know, they go to like, you know, Bohemian Grove or whatever place. It's not fair to throw Bohemian Grove under the bus, but, you know, these sort of, not conventions, but these gatherings, you know, with all the wealthiest, whatever. And I think they looked around at these guys in their American Apparel hoodies with the white, drawstrings and said, oh, I'm not going to let this guy, this tech guy is going to like game me. He's making more money than me. And I think they were like, well, I'll beat him at his own game. That's what it looked like from the outside.
Right. Because
they definitely completely lost their North Star. And I said to them, when I said, I had expressed to people who were part of the negotiation on the other side, I said, you have a competitive advantage that you are absolutely going to lose. And that is that you guys know how to make films and you have relationships with a bunch of talented people who know how to make films. That's your competitive advantage, which is huge. But you're just going to toss that.
For convenience and money.
So you can chase these people, chase this business model, which doesn't benefit the tech business model doesn't benefit. It doesn't benefit the software engineers and it doesn't benefit anyone who makes films.
Like you said,
it benefits them only.
But like you said earlier, they could walk away tomorrow.
That's it.
And their benefit and their primary source of business and income is still going to thrive.
And guess what, Sean? That has partially happened. They pulled back about a year or two ago. They pulled back from acquiring, right? So two ways they're getting films. They're either doing the production themselves or they're acquiring something that's made by a studio or an independent producer after the fact, like going to the festivals and acquiring films, right? A couple of years ago, they pulled back from acquiring and it almost cratered the whole independent film industry. Because even if you can get independent film investors, they're going, well, what's the end game though? Where are we going at the end?
Why would we?
If Amazon's not buying anymore, like where are we going?
So AI is extremely, we're vulnerable to AI and everything we do.
Huge. You've seen the new stuff that Google sent out the other day?
Yeah, it's crazy. And we'll get into that because here's the problem. It's like we elect these politicians and they all come out with a platform and they all say, we want to create jobs. We want to protect industries. And we want to make sure that there's jobs, middle-class jobs for these people. And in the film industry, again, not everybody's making $1 million a year. Some aren't even making $100,000 a year. But, these politicians out there that claim they want to be for working people, and one of them comes to mind here, who I think is probably the biggest fraud I've ever met in my life, is Governor Newsom.
Sure.
Okay? Our biggest threat in the Teamsters Union is autonomous vehicles, autonomous commercial vehicles, and technology that's going to destroy jobs. We worked bipartisan to come up with a bill that would protect against automated self-driving commercial vehicles. Mm-hmm. Bipartisan on both sides. Got to his desk, first thing he does is vetoes it. Mm-hmm. Now here's a guy that won a recall election because of support from working people.
Well, and also there was nobody good, nobody substantial running against him.
The talent pool is pretty low, right?
Yeah.
And, that's where I have a problem with all this. And I know you're doing a lot of work on your own as far as protecting against AI. You have your nonprofit that we support. Tell us about that, and we'll get back into Bradley Cooper wannabe governor.
Sure. Oh, God. That's he's all aflutter that you just included his name with Bradley Cooper's name. Okay. So I have a group called, because I realized a couple of years ago that how much AI was going to, take over things. Because really, these tech companies, I have a computer science degree. So I know like a large part of coding is having you reference like a function that does a series of things so that you don't have to write that series of things every time. So you want to try to automate a lot of your coding, right? Like that. So you're drawing from libraries that have, so that's the tech company DNA. So you can imagine that they want to automate as much as they can in that same sense, right? So if you can not have to deal with filmmakers and actors and all these different people, and instead you can just have an AI program that's tuned into all the you have a AI program that's tuned into your viewing history. Now they can customize stuff for you, and they go, well, the copyright office isn't going to copyright that stuff. And I say, why would you think they were ever going to copyright any of that? It's like a used Kleenex, right? Mm-hmm. They can just make it for you and make 1,000 for you today, according to your viewing habits, and also probably according to your politics, according to everything, all the data they have about you online, they can just make you customized pieces.
So is that what you're talking about right there? Google's
Sure.
new AI video tool floods internet with real-looking clips.
Yeah, that's what I was telling people. They're like, "Oh, it'll never happen. It doesn't look real." And I said, "You're kidding me." I showed them so many, and if people go to credo23.com /AI in film.
And that's your nonprofit.
That's a nonprofit where I realize like people are going to want to know, is this real or not? And so if there's a Credo 23 stamp on it, then you'll know that that no AI was used, like an organic stamp.
Right.
And we have a film festival where no AI, that Teamsters is a sponsor for, which is so great, where none of the filmmakers can't have used AI at any point. And that's it. So if you go to AI, and anyway, that's
and anybody can contribute to this, correct? Because it's a 501.
501c3. Yeah. And funds.
Why isn't everybody whose job is threatened with why wouldn't we be? Because look, you can't fix the sins of the past, right? And if we didn't negotiate strong enough protections,
right,
this may be another avenue to put those protections in place, have some sort of mandates, and we may be able to do that with tariffs and everything. Why wouldn't we should be promoting this, which we're going to do, to make sure that everybody in the industry should be contributing and being involved.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do in this industry, it could be at jeopardy with AI.
I don't know. People are afraid. They're afraid. They bought this ridiculous campaign that all the tech bros are spitting out there that, if you're not involved in this, you're going to be left behind. And I'm like, dude,
left behind.
It's the total opposite.
Well, you look at
it's the complete opposite.
You look at the last presidential election, right?
Yeah.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Her brother-in-law was he's a chief financial officer, or legal counsel, I should say, general counsel for Uber, right? Uber, Lyft, they destroyed a noble profession. Used to be taxi drivers.
Yeah.
Right? Where there was a human operator, there was kind of some sort of, that was an industry where it was a second job for most people.
Sure.
That worked their first job. It was a noble profession. Destroy that. Their big goal is to have autonomous vehicles. So even those Uber and Lyft drivers are eventually going to be faced with not having jobs. But you look at this last election, and, I'm trying not to get into Democrat, Republican, Independent. We call balls and strikes, right?
Yeah.
You look at, the last presidential election, and the Democrats, who were once always fighting for the working people, supposedly, they're embracing all these big tech companies that are going to be the demise of great American jobs, like the film industry. Your governor that we talked about earlier, I mean, where is his head at? I mean, Hollywood is an icon in this country. Mm-hmm. And by you embracing technology, you can destroy these jobs. There's a lot of indirect spending that goes on with it. I mean, what is your opinion of him? And this issue?
For all these people, I'll say this. I sincerely wish, and I don't know how we ever managed to get this done, because the very people that have to vote for it would be voting against their own financial interests. But I think the money that is in political campaigns it's outrageous that we've allowed this. And so when you look at who are they aligned with, then, and I'm sure you guys talk about this all the time, I'm sure you have to look at who contributed. Did the working man contribute a lot of money to these people's campaigns? No. Did Google? Probably. Did Netflix? Probably.
Oh, it's not a probably. They definitely did.
So it's you just look at who's going to contribute the most money, and then there's very few politicians that are. I find that whole profession to be loathsome. I mean, they take money from these companies, and then they appear to make sure that there's legislation that favors them. I mean, and it's not new. I mean, we've always had corporations involved in politics, but man,
you didn't have corporations so influential that because they give a campaign contribution trying to set policy in the United States either. I mean, you take Amazon, they think they're the United States of Amazon. Right, and they think that they control everything. They have the net worth of probably the majority of nations around this world, more net worth, I should say, and they're involved in everything, and they think they are so influential because of the money and the power that they wield.
Money, yeah.
And that's going to be the problem in politics moving forward. Like, how can you say you're there for working people like Newsom, like Harris, like Chuck Schumer, and you're taking hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars from these corporations? And you mentioned something earlier, like Google probably gave hundreds of thousands of dollars campaign.
I got an idea.
The working men and women, you know what they gave? They gave sweat equity, and they were given false hope and promises that are never going to happen.
I got an idea. Reverse this Supreme Court decision for Citizens United.
And what would that do?
That was the decision that said corporations are people. And so because corporations don't get to vote, like people get to vote, their money is their vote. Mm-hmm. And that is what blew open the corporation's ability to give money to these candidates.
Do you think Governor Newsom's bought and paid for with big tech?
He seems, I don't even know if he's in there, if he's in his body. He just seems like somebody who's, you know what I mean? He seems like a shell of a person, and I don't know. There's some sort of being inside of him that's like running it.
I'll give him credit for one thing. He's got unbelievable hair. I mean, he's got a good head of lettuce. There's no doubt.
I don't know.
But the reality of it is, I mean,
he's all over the place. He makes decisions that make no sense at all.
Those wildfires, drop the ball.
Forget. And then
I remember that video, right? It went viral. I'm watching it. And we were out here filming out here, shooting the one of our podcasts out here. And I remember it was a sense of despair. I mean, the place was in total despair. And I remember watching a woman in her neighborhood. Newsom was out there on a cell phone.
Yeah.
And
what are you going to do?
He's talking, and he's like, what are you going to do? Please tell us. He goes, I'm on the phone with President Trump right now, which was a bold-faced lie. And the lady says, well, let me talk to him. I need to talk to him. I want to know what's going on. Oh, lost connection. Come on.
Wait, let me do that. Let me do that for you a little bit more specifically.
Please do.
First of all, I'll need these because he never took them off.
That's awesome.
So say like, excuse me, my, so, okay, I'd be the woman. My daughter's school just burnt down. It's right there, and all of her friends, and they lost their homes and all of this. And he goes, wait, I need this too. Hold on.
This is awesome.
And he goes, I'm on the phone right now. And then he puts it away, and he goes, I'm on the phone right now. In other words, he was saying, crazy lady, get away from me, get away from this car. You can clearly see he probably wasn't on the phone, right. That's what that was. That was condescending. It was manipulative. He should have, and
Didn't he say he was on the phone with Trump though?
Yeah, you're going to be a manipulative politician. I got a tip for you. You're like this, and you're talking on the phone, and somebody wants to talk to you. You go, hold on a second. One of my constituents is here. And she's talking about what she's losing. And you reach your hand out, and you put it on her shoulder, and you put this concerned look on your face, and you nod, and you close your eyes briefly, experiencing her pain with her. And then you say, we're going to do everything we can for you. You don't have to mean it. But that's what you do to give the appearance that you give a shit.
I'd believe you.
I mean, just give the appearance that you care. That's what's going to help you politically.
Right.
I mean, isn't that not politics 101?
Well, you know what? I think politics should be a little bit more deeper than that.
It should. But I mean, at least play the game if you're going to be a game player.
He's a total embarrassment, and he's so on one breath he wants to destroy jobs with automation and everything else, but he has this delusion that he is going to be running for president of the United States in 2028.
I guess he could try.
Yeah, he'll never get the support of the Teamsters, but who's going to backfill his position?
Oh, I'm sure Kamala Harris is ready to run. Yeah. But let's not forget Karen Bass.
Oh, let's talk about Karen Bass. So we were out here during the fires, and well, there's this whole water supply issue too, protecting
Oh,
some
yeah.
fish and all this other stuff.
I don't know.
Elaborate, because you were out here, you were living it. You were actually
Yeah.
out working food banks and.
Oh, I wasn't doing that. I was too busy. I mean,
You called out Meghan and Harry.
So many people
we
were
thoroughly enjoyed.
So many people were evacuating, and we happened to be, some of those people. And because of the terrific campaign that the leaders of the state of California ran for the last 3 years, inviting criminals to come to California because don't worry, nothing will happen to you. Thank God we got a new DA, because this last DA would just let anybody off. You could do anything you wanted out here, really, and you'd be let off. So because of that, you had neighborhoods that had no electricity, and then, big surprise, there'd be a fire lit nearby. So everybody had to evacuate. Now you got a bunch of houses with unless they've got emergency backup electricity, the generators, you've got no alarm system going. Your gate is open because you had to, so nothing protected, no lights, nothing. And so these groups would come cruise through the neighborhoods and loot the houses. That is a direct result of what they set up over the last few years. So you got a fire combined with everybody come here and
illegal immigration,
and everybody, and
no
whether they're illegal or not,
and no consequences.
You come out and commit crimes, and there are no consequences. So you've already laid that ground in California. Now you've got a very bad situation. And Karen Bass, she never intended to run for mayor. She hadn't any plans to run for mayor. They cast her, really, like you're casting a movie.
Who's they? Democrats?
I guess.
DNC,
Somebody called her and asked her to do this, and she did it. And meanwhile, we had Rick Caruso, who is a incredibly qualified candidate. I was very interested in seeing what he would do for California. He's got a dog in the hunt. He has all this property here that he needs to do well, and also has a heart for LA. Mm-hmm. And Hirsch never, she was at a union meeting, industry union meeting, entertainment industry union meeting, 3 months after she took office. And I will tell you, she knew nothing about the entertainment industry. I was shocked.
I mean, the entertainment industry has to be one of the largest employers in Los Angeles.
This is like becoming mayor of Las Vegas and never having set foot in a casino and not knowing how any of it works. I was shocked. So she just seems out of it. This is what I'm saying. Vote for somebody who seems like tapped into reality, at least, and seems competent. When you're voting for an elected leader, you're voting for someone you think can handle the worst case scenario if it ever happens.
Right.
That's how you should vote. I don't care what their party is.
What is her stance on the Hollywood? I mean, does she just say, I support the industry and that's it? Is she doing anything to promote it and or make it better or keep work in Los Angeles? Because the majority of work in Los Angeles is gone. Yeah,
it is. And it's not just, and people have to remember, we're not talking about making sure, the biggest stars in the industry continue to make a lot of money. Though I will tell you, the fact that they say yes to projects is why the rest of the industry works. So don't forget that.
Right.
But we're talking about the 500,000 people that prop masters, drivers, location managers, caterers, all of those people working.
And don't forget the hardware companies, the lumber companies.
That's exactly what I was.
All these indirect spending as a result of it.
The hotels, the caterers, exactly.
Right.
That's it. And most of Los Angeles is in support of that activity. I think the biggest industries in Los Angeles are the entertainment business and the real estate business. Mm-hmm. Real estate business generates a lot of money, but it doesn't have that that overflow business, the cottage industry around it, like the entertainment industry does.
It's not a people business either.
Right, because it's you're just selling properties, right? Mm-hmm. But the entertainment business, you shoot a film here, you are engaging all of that all of those surrounding businesses, in addition to people who live here. This is not her calling. I'll just say that.
Right.
This is not what she's supposed to be doing for a living. Mm-hmm. And we need people who are actually called to these positions.
So we just had a pretty volatile election cycle nationally, mm-hmm. where your former, I think she was U.S. Senator, but she was the Attorney General prior, ran as President of the United States. She was Vice President. Lost, rightfully so. We've got this new administration, which is in 120 days. There's
Lots
a lot
happened,
of criticisms.
but a lot has happened.
We were one union that didn't endorse anybody, but the majority of our members, 65% of them, were voting for the Trump administration. How do you think the administration has been doing in the first 120 days? I mean, you mentioned something about, and you didn't really specify legal, but we had three big issues that they were focused on, and the Republicans, they were focused on immigration. I think they were focused on the economy, and they were focused on tariffs, bringing industries back into the United States. Those are our big three items that were important, or that were big issues during the election. How do you think he's doing? How do you think the administration's doing?
I really try to look at individuals who are in particular jobs in government as individuals and not look at the party. I'm really not interested in the party.
Right.
I'm not interested in either of the parties or any of the parties. I don't care about platforms.
Right.
Platforms are things that they pull out of the closet and dust off and talk about during the whole campaign.
Well, they get recycled.
Like abortion.
Right.
You never hear about it again during, the 4 years that somebody's in, really. But they pull it out of the closet every 4 years and wave it in front of everybody's faces. And so I'm just looking at the individuals. And I will say that these individuals that are in the cabinet right now, I'm happy to hear that they sound like they are, they've got the American citizens in mind, that it feels like the way they talk. I mean, you don't know between the way people talk and the way they act, but that they have got the American citizens back. It feels like there are people in the administration that are fighting for the American people, and that's really what you vote for, right? You vote for someone who's going to represent you, represent your interests. And so in that sense, I'm glad that they're trying to do that. I'm glad that they had Doge looking at all these different ways that the government money, or that our money, our tax dollars, could be spent more efficiently. I'm glad that they're trying things, and and maybe they're going to do certain things that cut too deep or go too far, and then they'll back away from that and move in a different direction. But I'm glad somebody's trying, because you think about it. I mean, what do we got? What is it? $36 trillion deficit? Is that? Right. I don't know if that's the number.
Well, there's some criticism too in this big new beautiful bill that they were going.
I haven't really reviewed it. Have you looked at it?
Well, we're doing a deep dive on it right now, but all the indications are from the naysayers we're going to be further in debt, and I'm not sure whether that's true or not. But like anything else, whatever's being done, it's going to get criticized no matter what. This is what's wrong with society, right? It's been 120 days, and some things have been done that they said they were going to do. Like we're all products of immigration. I embrace immigration because, my grandparents came from Ireland, right? Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Wouldn't be in the greatest country in the world if it wasn't for them. They came in the right way, got naturalized, and got jobs.
Yeah.
But when you have people coming into the United States to sell drugs, traffic humans, just cause chaos, and there's no consequences, they shouldn't be allowed the freedoms and the protections in this country. So, that's been a great thing. The one thing that we have that's a little bit different than most unions is, we've got access. There've been some issues where they've called us and said, hey, how is this going to affect working people? How is this going to affect? So we have the ability to talk.
Oh, that's great.
Important, right? Mm-hmm. Is it always going to go our way? Maybe not, probably not.
But at least they're getting your input.
They're getting our input. And they've got quite a task on their hands, because, they wanted to be the face of working people. Republicans, right? And again, I'm like you. I'm a Democrat, but I just want things done that are going to make this country prosper.
I don't care who's going to do it.
But more importantly, make American workers prosper. Yeah. And it's funny, we've been working on something, I think we just recently started on it, is Trump called me up and he said, hey, listen, we're gonna tax and tariff these film companies that go overseas, shoot movies over there. I need you to push as hard as you can and to support this and get behind it. That's easy. I mean, why wouldn't we do that when you have these corporations, basically, which they are now corporations in Hollywood, that are trying to take the work overseas, masquerade as the United States, make gazillions of dollars off these projects that weren't even filmed here, that didn't even put people to work.
Yeah.
How do you criticize that?
Yeah, I think the tricky thing with that is, how do you implement it? How do you enforce it? How do you, or do you, I mean, I think there are, it's one thing if it's with goods, like a hard good, like this cup or something, but if it's just labor,
but isn't it disclosures?
Tricky.
I mean, you can look at I mean, these corporations get audited. You see where they're filming their films. You see where they're doing the work. I mean, you can get a lot of information off that stuff. So I think they've got some pretty bright people that probably figure it out.
But I think there's another way to do it. They need to involve somebody who understands at an executive, or not even an executive. They need some film producers who tell them how this all is really working. Because I think there's ways to accomplish this. It's not necessarily, I guess it would be categorized as a tariff, but things like if it were me, I would especially press on these streamers. And I would say, if you're going to shoot something in Greece for $7 million, you need to do a $7 million film in the United States.
The quid pro quo. Something
like that. Because if you're trying to increase work, but then you also have this, I would love it if we had, and I know this is something you've talked about a lot, but like a national tax credit a federal tax credit for film productions in the United States. And if you've shot any of it in another country, you don't get it.
You're not eligible for it.
So something like that, you know?
And I think that's on the table right now. There's a lot of things on the table. But, you know, if we do this the right way, and we have the ability to have the right people in the room to explain what's needed to happen on these tariffs, we may be able to fix that AI problem that could be a threat as well. That could be. And
say you can't use. You also can't use AI.
So I mean, there's a lot.
Of course, because if you're doing it here, but you're using AI, that's not fair.
I mean, I recently watched some clip online. Rob Lowe was bragging about how it's easier and it costs less to go over an island with a crew of 100 to film a movie. And I'm like, here's a guy that made his entire career in Hollywood, utilizing crews in America.
Yeah.
And he's embracing that same philosophy. It's cheaper. Let's just go over there. And he said, you know, I refused to do a show in New York and it got canceled because I refused to do it. Okay, that's great for you. But what about the other people that needed to work on that? So I think it's kind of a mentality now with some of these bigger actors as well that, you know, they'll make more money if they go overseas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're getting a percentage of the budget, I mean, I don't know if that's the case with Rob Lowe, but if as an actor you're getting a percentage of I don't know if people do. I don't know if many actors get a deal like that, but if the producers definitely do, you get a percentage of the budget. And if you've got $5 million and you can shoot it for 1 versus shooting it for 3, you get more money because you're getting what's left over in some cases. But I don't know. For me, I'm like, as a producer, I mean, I say like, you know, I want to make as the amount of money I need to make for having spent, you know, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, getting the project together, and the amount of money I need as a director and a writer for having put the entire project together. But beyond that, and you know, I know that doesn't sound great, but I do think you need to compensate your crew fairly. First of all, it's the right thing to do. But secondly, like, I don't know why you don't want to pay these people. You can't make this film on your own, which is why a lot of people like the idea of using generative AI. Because then they're like, well, then I can just do it my own. I don't have to mess around with all these people. It's like, and those people that are saying that are not, first of all, are not filmmakers.
No, they've got no creative bone in their body.
And they've never been on, they've never worked on a set.
Right.
Because working on a set is one of the greatest experiences of filmmaking. And having that camaraderie.
I know our members love working on the set.
Great. It's
especially
so
when
great.
they hit golden time. And they love it. It's the best experience of their life. So what was it like growing up as a childhood actress?
Oh, that's so long ago. I don't really remember a lot of it.
You were just a kid.
But I will say this, like, I'm so glad, and anybody my age who's been in the business a long time will say the same thing, I'm sure. I'm so glad I got to be part of the business before it ended. Right. Before this, like, 100-year-old business where you had this financial ecosystem that worked for everybody. There seemed to be enough money to go around. There was enough work to go around. There was enough room for lots of different kinds of work. You know, you had Suzanne Summers be successful, and Sir John Gielgud. You know, there was room for all of it. The prestige projects were properly treated, well. You know, they were, because that's part of art. It has to be presented properly. We don't look at the Mona Lisa on the floor on the ground in a parking lot.
Right.
It's up on a particular wall, lit a particular way. You approach it in a particular manner. When you clear the corner and come around, you know, all these the museum executives are thinking these things, right? Where is something placed? Streaming is not like that. Streaming is like a kind of a Costco-sized just bin where everything's tossed, right? You got incredible films right next, you know, their thumbnails are right next to another one, and that's worth nothing.
One time in the industry, and you got to experience. You had passion, you had
all
creativity,
and you had payments.
And
you had residual payments worked properly, and then you had DVDs, and DVD payments worked properly. And sure, of course, you know, technology moves forward, and you have to adjust to that. But I mean, you said something earlier, like, does it make it better? Like, if there's an adjustment in technology and it doesn't make things better, and it doesn't make the business healthier, then that doesn't sound like a technological advancement at all.
No, it seems like a financial advancement.
Yeah, for somebody.
So what is your life like day to day? What do you do? I mean, you have
my life day to day,
right?
Yeah, I have a daughter. Yeah, I have kids and a husband, and I basically, you know, as an independent filmmaker, you're just kind of hustling every day. The good news is that, you know, as a screenwriter, I can put my projects together. I'm not like, you know, hoping I can get the rights to this book or that, or hoping I can find a script that I want to direct or produce. You know, I can generate my own. So right now I'm involved in a project that's pretty terrific. I don't know how much I can talk about it yet, but it's a business origin story, and I love business origin stories. So that will be, maybe we'll get to shoot it this year. That would be great. And beyond that, you know, as an author as well, I can always put together books. So yeah, every day I'm looking at, like, I always need to be doing something. My brain needs to be on something. So
yeah, they call that OCD.
No, it's not OCD.
ADHD.
No,
I
don't
check
have
all those boxes.
I don't have any of that stuff. I just really like to be working on something, because otherwise I don't feel like I'm moving forward.
Plus, you're setting an example for your children. I mean, you've got a great work ethic. They're going to see.
Yeah. So I'm always either like writing a script or trying to raise money for a project, or what else? Oh, the film festival that we have, you know, that's in March. And in that one, I'm very curious to see what the future of, if you go to Credo 20, yeah, that one, right. I'm curious to see what the future of distribution is going to be, because I'm thinking, like, what are some of the new ways we can be distributing films that maybe aren't as financially lucrative, but at least are new ways? And I think one possibility is, I was thinking, what if a filmmaker didn't have the pressure of selling a film out of a film festival? What if being in the film festival itself paid? What if you could do a whole film festival circuit and actually earn enough money during that circuit to pay your investors back or do another film? So in the same way Coachella pays their artists, the Burning Man Festival pays artists. I thought, what if you paid the filmmakers? So what we did with the Credo 23 Film Festival, it's all AI. We don't want any content. We want really good filmmaking and fresh filmmaking and filmmaking that's moving the creative ball down the field, like risk taking and all of that. And how do these people who are making more out of the box films and not using AI, how are they going to afford to do more films? Because who's buying that? Right? They should be in theaters and stuff like that, but it's just a lot of content. So we're like, okay, let's try and help them to afford to make more films. Let's give them all the proceeds from the film festival, from ticket sales and sponsorships, after costs, of course, keep the money that we need to run it.
Sure.
And then give them everything. So this, because of Teamsters and other sponsors and ticket sales and everything, we were able to give away $70,000. We gave to 23 shorts film makers and I had 2 films in it, but of course I don't qualify for the grant.
Right.
But we gave them all grants and two or three feature film directors. And we'll just keep doing that. And the more money we can bring in, the more money we're going to be giving to this. I mean, I'd love to be able to give $100,000 to each one of the filmmakers. And what if 10 film festivals did that?
And this was your first time out of the gate.
This was the first time.
So look, we can help build that up, and I think it's important.
Awesome.
All unions that are in the industry, there's no reason why they shouldn't be contributing either, because it's going to protect jobs for their members.
And then I just think, like, what if a filmmaker could? All you have to do is have made a good enough film to get into a film festival. And then you get money from that, and then you can go make another one. And you don't have to worry about, you don't have to sweat selling it to a streamer or something. You can just have made a great film, and that's why you have enough money to make another one.
Well, that's good. Hopefully we can be part of the solution and eliminate the problem.
Yeah. I mean, another thing is like film societies. Like, I've put my 2 films, Feel and Look, which are avant-garde films, really different if somebody's looking for something different. They're on my Substack, which is, you should go Substack and search my name. You'll find it. So it's Racetrack is the name of that site.
Racetrack? What's that about?
It's just a racetrack where you have cool stuff. So,
online betting? Can you?
Oh, there we go. So there's the trailer for So there's a trailer for one of them. And that is, in the final film, like, that's combined with a bunch of other stuff. That's just one of the trailers. But yeah, I had people sitting in chairs and talking about what's been on their mind. It was pretty interesting. So that's, but yeah, my films are there if somebody wants to see something different. So I'm thinking, like, maybe film societies online could be a way, for people, and in a couple of sites that have done that very successful in a way without trying to do film societies, but they really are film societies, is Criterion Channel. That's like the best value I have for anything I have a subscription for online, Criterion Channel. And they have a lot of excellent films there. You really get your money's worth. And Mubi, M-U-B-I, has always had a really interesting setup where there's only 30 films on there at a time. I don't know if they still do this. And one film leaves and one film joins each day. So that's a good value too. So there are people that have been doing that well for a while, and I think maybe we could have more of that. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is financially going forward. Maybe making deals with more small collections of theater owners. Someone in Utah that owns 6 theaters there and 4 theaters in Wyoming or something.
Little investment from brick and mortar, right?
Yeah, because, theater owners have the same
probably worries,
same interests that we have. We want to get this out to people and not have it thrown into some.
So if any of your children wanted to get into the Hollywood business, would you be supportive of that, or would you be?
Well, I don't currently think there is a Hollywood business. I think,
or in the film industry,
if they want to become filmmakers,
right?
That's another thing. And yeah, anybody who really feels called to be a filmmaker, like, go do it, and don't make content. Like, make real film, really do it, because the art of filmmaking is still going to go forward. The financial aspect of it will be figured out. I'm more tapped into, or what's been revealed to me is creatively where we're going. I don't know. I haven't been, that's going to be for someone else to figure out the distribution and the financial health of going forward. But I'll just say to anybody who feels called to filmmaking, just on every, I tell you, Sean, here's something I'm seeing that I find it's one thing that AI coming in and, or rather, people who want to cut their, labor overhead, bringing generative AI into films and kind of destroying it in that sense, right? But what I'm seeing is a lot of self-sabotage by filmmakers and actors themselves. I can't tell you how many enormous budgeted films I've seen over the, last few years, but especially recently, where the actors are big enough to have said, or, they're well known enough to have the leverage to say, enough influence, to say, this script isn't right. You guys need to change this. Or, I don't know, I'm seeing a lot of people phoning it in. And a lot of people doing, and look, I
just go along to get along, man.
So I don't know. I don't know if they were offered so much money and they don't want to screw that up, that they're not wanting to say anything, and also like commercials. I don't know what their financial situations are that they have to do all these commercials, but okay, you're going to do a commercial, but why are you not insisting the production values be better? I don't understand that.
Right.
They're giving you a lot of money. They obviously want you. Why are you not saying, yeah, I'll do this if you use this cinematographer?
Well, I think it's just a perfect example. It's a hooray for me society. Screw everybody else. Long as get in mind, but it shouldn't be that way.
These people, some of the people I'm thinking of are talented people who are called to this line of work. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, doesn't it just kill you inside? Do you not feel like a knife is just splitting you open? That you are doing this ad, the production values are shit. The director is shit. I'm sorry to say it like that, but I won't name any names or brands or anything like that because I'm never going to publicly criticize other people in this business. Right. But I don't understand. And there's other ads that are
where you come from, because they weren't always major league Hollywood stars either.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's another example of, the hooray for me. Screw everybody else. I worked my way up. I got where I am. That's true. You might have, but was it always easy for you? Just think about the people that are working behind the scenes. Just think about the people that are just starting out.
But also like your creative standards. Was that the criteria by which you were, or was that the condition by which you were paid? Like you couldn't bring any of your creative standards into it? I just don't. There's other commercials.
There's a power struggle there. Creativity versus prosperity, right?
Well,
and what's going to win most of the time?
There are other ads too that are like very clever and very specific to those performers, and the production values are incredible. And a lot of times you see them during the Super Bowl and stuff. Right. But a lot of these other ones are just like
gimmicks, just
so bad. Mm-hmm. The lighting is so bad. The acting is horrible. The dialogue is horrible, and I don't know. I'm just like, it seems like a big conspiracy to hollow out the business from the inside. You have, you know what I mean? Outside it's like forces. It's coming from outside. There's outside forces that are eliminating, with the introduction of generative AI. But then I see this self-sabotage happening from the inside, and I'll say this.
Where there's no AI being utilized, but strict talent that could actually push back and protect the creativity of the project.
Make something good.
Right.
Why are you doing a 60-second spot, 30-second spot? Why not make it good? I don't know. What's the problem?
It's like our podcast. We do everything top shelf there. And by the way, I guess you're going to be co-hosting a future episode.
I love it.
Good. How do you like our studio?
Terrific.
Listen, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. I want to thank you for your passion in the industry. And what's the name of your project that we want everybody, Credo 23?
Oh, yeah. Credo23.com. And then the Credo 23 Film Festival, which will be in March in Los Angeles, probably.
And then my Substack. Where can we find your Substack at?
Sure. The Substack address, I think it's... just go to Substack and put my name in. It'll come up. Or if you're on my social media, you'll see it. And yeah, you can see my 2 latest films in there that I'd made with almost no money. Music rights were the big expenditure, relatively speaking. And they're just really something different. You want to see something really new and different and raw and human. These are my new films, Feel and Look. What else do I want to say? Yeah, I think that's it. That's what I'm up to
All right,
now.
great. Well, I look forward to our next episode. Thank you very much.
Thanks.